focusing on stories and issues impacting Kentucky. This is the Commonwealth Matters. The Commonwealth Matters is a production of the Commonwealth Policy Foundation. We're a nonprofit public policy group that's helping Kentuckians value life, protect natural marriage, defend religious liberty, and promote fiscal integrity. To learn more about our work and find helpful resources, visit commonwealthmatters.org.
Welcome into the Commonwealth Matters. I'm Brandon Porter. Richard Nelson's here with me. Richard, you doing well today?
I'm doing great. Great to be on the program with you.
Good. Well, we have a topic today that we're going to cover on foster care and adoption here in Kentucky. And Richard, we have a lot to talk about in the program. It's an important program, certainly for the many foster kids that are in state care. For our family personally, it's something that we've experienced in the state of Alabama. Frustration in the foster care system more than 15 years ago, which led us to international adoption. And not that the state of Kentucky wants that to stop, but they want adoption in the state of Kentucky to be more prominent and come to the forefront. And so I can certainly applaud that and be thankful for it. But as we think about this issue, we do have problems here in Kentucky. Let's talk about some of those problems first as we talk about the things that are being done to address them. One of those things is, I think you said earlier, as we were talking before the program started, more than 8,000, maybe closer to 8,500 children in Kentucky's foster care system.
That's right, and that's a figure from, I believe, back in spring. That's a lot of kids, Brandon, 8,500 kids who are looking for permanent homes. Now, many of these kids have parents who are in trouble with the law, might have addiction issues. Some kids have just been abandoned, and the state is taking care of them. And one of the great roadblocks that they're facing is foster care homes, and then permanent homes. Many of these kids don't have families to go back to. They don't have parents that are interested in taking care of them and raising them. So there are a number of kids that are looking for permanent homes as well. Yeah,
and you think about 8,500 kids. That's probably more than many communities across the Commonwealth that they have in the children in all of their school system, perhaps even. That's so many children, so many kids. And then as we think about that, we have to ask ourselves, why is this problem? Why does it exist? And one of the reasons that we know is because that there is a long process to become a foster parent. There's a long process to become an adoptive parent, and that really slows this down.
Yeah. And, we want things to be done carefully, and we want kids to be in the best care, but there are processes and procedures that are in place that I think hinder immediate care for the kids, whether it's the foster home. Now, there are a number of people that want to be foster parents, but if you look at the hoops that they need to jump through, it's significant. They need to go through training. There are background checks. And when you talk about background checks, that takes up to 2 weeks or close to 2 weeks, something that could be shortened to maybe just in a few minutes. Sure. I think if you made it a priority to make it easier for foster parents to open their homes up to children who need them. When you look at the application process, other things that are required. One of the things that is being done right now is the number of hours for training. Right now it's about 35 hours. The state is looking to cut that in half, and it's because of this new adoption and foster care initiative that's taking place.
And so let's talk about that new initiative, because one of the key points of that initiative is Dan Dumas, who is now the adoption and foster care czar of Kentucky. He has been in that role for about 3 months as we record this in September of 2017. He's been met with a lot of criticism out of the gate.
Well, right out of the gate, he was accused of not having the experience necessary to do this, and the truth is that he has really some of the best experience in the world, because he is an adoptive parent. He and his wife, over 20 years ago, I believe it was, adopted 2 boys to join their home. But he's also been a leader at Southern Seminary, a vice president. He's a Navy veteran. He's a leader. He's a leader, and he's determined, and he has the skill set that it takes to fix a broken system. And to do what it takes to get these kids into permanent homes.
Well, we have both been able to spend some time with him recently. In just a moment, I'm going to share some of the video clips from a conversation that he and I had. But you were able to spend some time with him over the phone as you wrote a column that has appeared, and folks can go and find that at our website, commonwealthmatters.org. But right now, we want to introduce you to Dan Dumas and let you hear from him how he has just sort of his assessment, I guess, of these first few weeks and months on the job as Kentucky's adoption czar.
My strategy has been first to kind of get into the weeds, to be honest, because it's very technical and it's very complex. In order to change something, you need to understand it. And so I spent probably, and I'm still doing that to some degree, but the vast majority of my time studying, reading, understanding statute, understanding KRS, understanding KRA, understanding SOP, so that I could see the full breadth of it, then to, with precision, change those different pieces, and to think through whatever legislation we want to bring forth.
And he spent time outside the office to learn from those on the front lines.
I've met with frontline workers, being, the social workers. I've met with foster families. I've met with foster, kids. I've visited our privates, all the different homes that we have, and and all of our privates are fantastic, by the way. And we have 45 of those in the state, roughly. And I visited the privates. I got in cars, dressed down, got in Dockers, went on ride-alongs with the frontline workers to go visit a foster home. Got to talk with them in the car, spend time with them. So I felt like seeing it, feeling it for myself.
Dumas says seeing it firsthand has been a very emotional experience.
I'm ex-military. I'm not a big crier, but the last 80 days, I've cried more in the last 80 days than I have in 51 years. It's just sad. Our kids come into our care in Kentucky, and they're traumatized. It's a broken system. They've been abused. We are permanency and protection, right? And so it's just a really difficult space, and very a word you would understand, dark. It has, someone's hurt a child or abused a child, or in whatever form or format that is.
And it isn't just one person or one department that can fix the system. Everyone involved will have to work together to repair the system.
There's been a task force assigned, and LRC's doing a review, and the privates are doing a review. We're doing a review. I think everybody's, on alert that we need to do something. And I think collectively, if we all join together, the office of the courts, the cabinet, the legislative body, everybody together, I think we can really make a difference for our kids.
He says there are many things that need to be addressed to repair Kentucky's foster care and adoption system.
We have to do what's right for our children. And culturally, I think we've slipped a little bit there. I think we've backed up from that, and other things have come in view of the system. So maybe doing what's right for the state. Maybe sometimes the state feels a need to protect itself from an incident or from something that could possibly happen. I use this as hyperbole, but a dog bites a child in Tampa, and we create regulation so that you can't own a dog and be a faithful foster home. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's hyperbole, but that's the kind of thing that happens. So what we end up doing by default is we end up leading to the 1% of incidents rather than to the 99% that's out there. And I think that needs to flip. 99 to 1 should be what's 99%, what is in the best interest of the child, and then 1%, we'll hedge against things happening and something happened to a child. But that's a culture shift, to be frank. That's where I've sensed some resistance, because there's other things that people have in view that are in their best interest, and there's a multiplicity of those. But in particular, I think at the top, the banner, we need to ask the hard question: what is right? What is in the best interest for a child?
At the Commonwealth Policy Foundation, we try to approach the issues of life, marriage, religious liberty, and fiscal integrity from a biblical perspective that promotes thoughtfulness and kindness. We work with political leaders and concerned citizens from all across the state. To stay informed, visit commonwealthmatters.org and sign up for our e-newsletter. The Commonwealth Policy Foundation is a nonprofit organization that only exists because of friends like you. Thanks for tuning in to the Commonwealth Matters.
Welcome back to the Commonwealth Matters. I'm Brandon Porter. Richard Nelson's here with me. Richard, we've been talking about foster care and the needs here in Kentucky to see that system is revamped and just really overhauled. Let's talk about specifically some of the reasons why, and they all have to do with children primarily. That's the focus. We mentioned earlier there are close to 8,500 children in Kentucky's care right now in the foster care system, but there are a number of them that are ready to be adopted right at this moment.
That's right. In fact, there are 2,000 kids that are looking for permanent homes. These are parents they have parents whose parental rights have been terminated, and the state's simply looking for adoptive parents. Brandon, that's a lot of kids who need to find forever homes, is what they're called.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, because I think that word forever, sometimes we tend to forget that this is not a daycare system. This is not the school system. The children and a permanent place for them to be cared for should be the ultimate goal. If that can be back to their biological parents, that's wonderful, and we're all for that. But if it needs to be adoptive parents, that's great. We ought to see this as a temporary solution rather than the permanent solution.
That's a good point. And one thing I think we're hearing from Dan Dumas is to prioritize the children, to make them a priority throughout the whole process. It's good that we have resources. It's good that there's a state cabinet to address this. It's good that we have different support structures and individuals that can come in and help. But I think what's been lost in this conversation is that children have not been a priority. If you or I were to put ourselves in the shoes of a child, a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old child who didn't have a home, they're in the system, we might think a little differently about this. Because to a child that doesn't have a stable home to go to, if they're being shuffled from one foster home to another, or if it's in limbo whether or not they're going back to their parents, that's frightening for them. And the priority needs to be placed back on the child. We need to look at them, what's in their best long-term interest, and then how do we expedite this? How do we make it quicker for them so they're not stuck in a system for several years while they could be with a permanent forever home right now?
Yeah, really as safe and smooth as possible. As it possibly can be for the children. We talked about many of the challenges that there are to Kentucky's foster care system. There is a tremendous cost to taking care of 8,500 children in state care. And so, Richard, let's talk about that. $450 million. Is that really the number that it takes every year to care for these kids?
Yeah, that's based on an average of $53,000 per child every year that the state is paying for foster care. Now, some of the children cost more and some are less, and it's because of different issues, behavioral issues, emotional issues. There might be physical disabilities. So the state brings in professionals to address these. And there are homes, group homes, and behavioral centers that are put together for these children. So it does cost a lot. We're looking at a significant amount of our state budget every year that is going for these children.
And so let's think then about if we said earlier that there are 2,000 children that are ready to be adopted right now, what would happen to that number, that $450 million number, if 200 or 2,000 of those kids were adopted and were no longer in the care of the state?
Yeah, hey, right off the bat, the state would be able to save $100 million a year.
Wow.
Stop and think about that. The state is scrambling to put its budget together right now. There have been budget shortfalls. That's a significant amount of money every year that could be saved if we had parents or people in the state of Kentucky that would step up and open their homes up to these children who are right now ready for adoption.
Well, I think that's a good lead in. Folks who are ready to step in, that's a great lead in to what we want to talk about next. So often when we think about foster care systems and it comes to the state, we have a tendency to think that's somebody else's problem, that the state's going to care for that, somebody gets paid to deal with that. We probably need to consider that from a different direction. What is that direction?
Brandon, we do. We are our brother's keeper. We don't live on islands unto ourselves. We live in community. And when we see somebody in our community in need, we should be looking at what we can do to help, to reach out. And when you look at the most vulnerable among us, children who they don't have homes or they come from very broken homes and they need a forever family, I think it's incumbent on all of us to see what we can do. Now, the truth is we're not all called to be foster parents. We might not be able to be adoptive parents, but there's still something that we can do. One of which is we can be respite providers. If you have some parenting experience and you wanted to help those foster parents, to give them a week break, they might need a vacation to get away for a week or two. You could open your home up to be a respite provider. How about mentoring? Many of these young kids need to have mentors, and I think of agencies like Big Brothers and Big Sisters where they have mentors there. Well, you could be a mentor along those lines to these kids, and that's also giving some support and some respite maybe to a foster care provider. Financial help. Now, if you can't do either of those two things, how about donating to agencies that are helping foster kids or place children into forever homes?
And I think on that line, when we talked about this, and I've heard Dan Dumas speak about it, we'll hear from him in just a minute on this. But I'm tempted to think, well, I pay taxes, I do my part. But then you learn how many private organizations, and really they're nonprofit charitable organizations, most of them are, that are coming alongside the state to offer the care that these children so desperately need. And so those organizations, so we're not necessarily recommending you just write another check to the state, but it's these other organizations. Go ahead.
Thanks for saying that, because that's the last recommendation I would make, is to say to write a check to the state. We don't want to give the state they're getting enough of our tax dollars. But these nonprofit groups like Sunrise Children's Services or Potter's Children Home, groups all over the state. In fact, there's 101 different state agencies or agencies approved by the state as nonprofits to care for the needs of children in foster care. And those are the groups that need resources. They need your donations. They need our donations and our help as well.
Well, in our conversation with Dan Dumas, we asked him this very question. What could just average citizens like you and me, what could they do to help foster kids here in Kentucky? Let's hear his answer.
There's tons of things people can do. It's not just fostering, and it's not just fostering to adoption. Certainly those are magnanimous goals for anyone, and I would encourage everyone to do that. But to be honest, not everybody should do it. You have to. It takes a tough family and a healthy couple with right motives to do this, right? So we know that. But of the 1.7 million family units in Kentucky, we certainly can do better. So some examples: respite care. You may never foster or adopt, but you could provide respite care to some younger couple who's like SEAL Team 6, caring for these kids who have been traumatized. So providing them some respite care. You could be a driver, taking kids to doctor's appointments. A lot of times these kids they have services wrapped around them to help them process the trauma and to work through all that. And so just giving them an opportunity to drive someone across town. I think mentoring is a big place for sure. There's lots of mentoring that needs to happen, especially with our teenage population as they're beginning to move towards exiting out. We can do better at caring for them and putting mentoring around them, teaching them just life skills. If not, the rule is they age out, they sign out, and that burdens us. That burdens all of us, that we could do better there. And volunteering, showing up at the fair and working the booth with us, and any kind of volunteering, helping out with the CASAs, helping out with the Guardian Ad Litems, any volunteer organization, all of the nonprofits, the 45 that we kind of partner with in the state, all of them need volunteers. So you can do something, right? Everybody can do something. And really I think that's the governor's challenge, and it would be my challenge to echo that, to both ignite the churches and ignite the communities together to get involved. And don't let this be someone else's responsibility. These kids are our responsibility. They're Kentucky's responsibility. If you're a citizen of the Commonwealth, then they're your responsibility. And you can no longer say, I gave it the office. You can no longer kick the can. I mean, we're putting it front and center. Child welfare matters to Kentucky, and it matters to this administration.
We're going to provide for you some opportunities to get connected. And so there are some links there in your screen where you can find the agencies that have been mentioned here in this program, and many others that the state works with. Maybe this program and just other conversation that's been going on around you about this issue has spurred you on to think about foster care or adoption. And so we're going to provide a link for you there on your screen that will help you to know where to go to pursue that. And I tell you, as adoptive father, it's wonderful. I can't imagine our family without our two sons that are adopted. And so I would just highly encourage you to do that if that's in your heart. Richard, as we begin to leave this issue, what should we be taking with us here at the end?
You know, we're talking about state government, we're talking about the Cabinet for Families and Children, and I think we can get hung up on the idea that it's political and that it doesn't have to do with me. And we need to remember that this is a people issue. This is not the state government. It deals with children.
Yeah.
And because of that, we should all be concerned. In fact, I would go a step further and say that there's a crisis in Kentucky. And we know something about crises with the hurricanes that have hit this country lately. And it's amazing that in a time of crisis, you see people roll up their sleeves and they ask, what can I do to help? They want to go in to rescue. They want to go in to provide food and to provide shelter. We have the same kind of crisis right now, where we've got 2,000 children who need permanent, forever homes.
Yeah.
And we need to be willing to do that, to open up our homes or somehow assist in this process, to begin to make children a priority. And to realize, again, this is not political, but this is about the well-being of Kentucky and Kentucky's children. And when we do that, when we engage at a personal level, reaching out and helping, it's amazing what happens, how it diffuses the political tension, the political animosity, the political bitterness and anger. You know, nobody's asking in the crisis of the hurricanes, what's your political affiliation?
Right, sure.
They're not looking at skin color. They just see that there's a need that needs to be met, and they're racing in there to help out. And Brandon, we need to do the same today with these 2,000 Kentucky children who need forever homes.
Yeah, and we, so not just you, but
that's right.
But
we're pointing fingers at ourselves.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Commonwealth Matters. We hope you'll tune in again. And why don't you do us a favor there as you watch this? Why don't you share it on your Facebook page, share it on Twitter. There are so many opportunities that you have to share this on social media, and we would certainly be grateful for you doing that and helping us get the word out, not just about this program, but about this important issue here in the state of Kentucky. Thanks so much for watching.
Thank you.